Um, I see the difference between documentary filmmaking and all those years I was doing that, and what I'm doing now is, in documentary filmmaking, I was telling other people's stories, right? Now, I think it's more about me getting in touch with what I feel and what I think and how I see the world and how I want to express that. So that's sort of the difference. I think the thread is that most of the stories that I told were of people of color, challenges that we have navigating this American life, and I think that the characters, the figures, the human figures that come out into the clay are similar in that way. They're all mostly, I would say, American people, American black folks, who are mixed. I mean, we're all like kind of mixed up here in America. And I think I've been told that you can look at my sculptures, and even though the clay might be like a pure white clay, you know they're black, you know, so I like that. Okay, so yeah, I really enjoyed the years that I spent with filmmaking. It was exciting. I got to travel around the world, really, places I would never have gone: Iceland, Australia, Hawaii, you know, places in the United States. But so I loved it. However, I got to a point where it became a very stressful endeavor for me. I was teaching at Arcadia, and I went through the ceramic department, and I saw what people were making. I was just like, ooh, like, I have to do that. It was something that just drew me. And I realized what it was being able to really pick up a material and hold it and feel it, you know, be really engaged with it, because a video is all digital, like there's no way to really touch it, right? And that was lacking for me spiritually, you know, creatively, emotionally. Later, that was, I mean, I think that was around 2015. Where am I going? So yeah, late in life. So yeah, I mean, I just found I could tell you the, you know, the minutiae, but I did find my way to clay eventually, and I never looked back. I kind of lose my train of thought, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, black people are, you know, Baptist, Buddhist, Jewish, Muslim, atheist, you know, we're everything. We're, you know, like there's no, you know, like there's no way to stereotype black people. It's really not. You know, I think that to be successful, sometimes we do kind of mash ourselves into certain identities to fit in, to be successful in life. I think as time goes on, that's less so. I think we're very creative people, and we create ways to be in this world, and people copy us all the time. You know, the characters, I guess, that come forth out of the clay are people that I think I know. I'm not sure. They just come out of the clay. I don't know who they are, but they represent kindness, dignity, and sadness, you know. A couple of my characters were expressing rage. Very subtle, but yeah. I mean, you know, when I'm crafting these figures, I sometimes think about, wow, who might like this piece? But then it's gone because um, yeah, that goes through my mind sometimes, like who might this speak to, you know. But you know, while I'm crafting a lot of things are going on. One is that I don't even often know who is coming out. You know, I might think I'm going to do a young person, it ends up being a young boy, it ends up being an older woman. You know, it's a time for me while I'm sculpting to really let my mind go. And Questioning Christianity was titled after it was made. And one thing that, because that was something I was doing, you know, I think all those pieces are part of me,
Yeah.
no matter who they are.
Yeah.
You know? And for sure that piece is, spoke to something that I've been dabbling, you know, kind of dealing with my whole life, really, but certainly as an adult, and especially now. You know, and I was looking at his face, and you know, it just, those two things came together. So I was so appreciative when the buyer related to it, you know. And the thing about art for me that is so wonderful is that you don't know how people are going to respond. You know, like they bring their lives to what you're doing, and I mean that to me is like super exciting. You know, it's sort of that's the magic in a way. You know, I mean there are all these layers of magic. It's when you first think about it, then when you, for me, when I start working with clay, and sometimes I have the face and I do something and it's a mistake, but it gives them a certain cheek or a certain eye, or you know, like there are a couple of figures I just sketched in the face with my fingernails just to put it in there so I could get a sense of what I was doing, and I just leave it, and it's done. Have a great capacity for love, you know, and I think that's what we all want. You know, I think that I think it's kind of broken out of us through life sometimes, but other emotions kind of take, you know, forefront. But I think that's really, that is what amazes me when, you know, like traveling. I remember, for example, running into, it was a rest stop, and I was in the middle of, I think, Kentucky or Kansas or someplace where I don't think they see too many black folks. And I was buying some stuff and I was digging in my purse trying to get my credit card, and I couldn't get my hand on it. And the woman behind the counter, this young, middle-aged white woman, I could see her getting like, and I was kind of looking around like, I don't know, my cackles kind of went up. And there was a line, and finally I was like, oh my God, I know you have better things to do than to stand there while I'm, you know, I'm sorry. And as soon as I said that, she was like, you know, what did she say? She said, I have surgery tomorrow. Like she was telling me that she was, what I was sensing was correct. But the reason was because she's upset, you know, like she's anxious about what's happening to her tomorrow, and she doesn't have a lot of money to cover this. That's what came out, and that, you know, and I was like, sometimes you just have to talk to people, you know, you just have to, you know, say I'm sorry, or I hear you, I see you know, and then they see you in return, and that's kind of surprised me lately. You know, the last 10 years of my life, I've kind of discovered that for myself.
you.